The song of a lad that is gone.
The first episode of season 6 has finally dropped, and it was an epic episode to launch this season off with. It had flashback scenes, it had controversial topics that book readers found a little bit odd, it had so much storyline and so much sort of thrown into it that you were really deep into some character developments, and it just played off amazingly. I can't wait to talk about this episode with you all in today's video. So if you're new here, hello, my name is Kaylee, and on this channel I love to talk about Outlander. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please hit that subscribe button. It will certainly help the channel grow. We have a fantastic Outlander community here on YouTube and on my Instagram page, so feel free to jump over onto that one as well. But in the comment section, please remember, even if you are a book-only fan, you are welcome to voice your opinion as long as we respect each other, because there's some things that are going to happen in this season that I feel are going to divide book readers from TV show viewers. But as for the episode that has just played out, all I have to say so far is wow. It was probably one of my favourite first episodes for a new season, as opposed to season 1. Wow. I mean, the way it was filmed, the way everything was played out, you got the prologue, I can't recommend this episode enough.
Time, space, history, be damned.
What I loved about the opening scenes for this episode is that we got to have just a bit of a recap of everything that has happened. So it jumps back to when, Claire was viciously attacked, the sort of timeline of events. We had Bree and Roger's wedding flashback. We had just all little bits of information that are going to be key factors in the upcoming season, and just to put everyone back on track. This was fantastic, because if you have had that long sort of period of time where you haven't watched and you're like, oh, what was, a few key details, it was fantastic for those people, because it was like, here we go, here's all the key elements. Now let's jump into what's happening on the ridge.
Time is marked and measured in different ways.
Also, we thought that it would be straight away at Fraser's Ridge with the family. What was an amazing element into the very first episode was the fact that we were not on the ridge. We were actually back at Ardsmuir prison, and it was setting up the storyline for what is to come. Now, I am very excited about the Christie storyline. I know a lot of people don't like them and don't really appreciate the storyline. They think it's one of those ones that was just, we could have thrown it in the bin sort of thing. But I like their storyline, and I love the actors who have been chosen to play these characters. I am much in love with Tom Christie, Mark Lewis. I'm not so much in, look, we'll leave that for another episode, but I am a big fan of the way that these characters are being portrayed. And instantly, from our flashback scene of Ardsmuir prison, we definitely have a bit of an understanding about how Tom Christie is going to be and how very stubborn and pig-headed the man can be.
You had better speak up, or I'll flog the lot of you myself.
It's mine.
Something that has been pretty well discussed on the internet in different forums at the moment in regards to this scene is the fact that there was a certain character missing from the jail scenes. Now, that character is, of course, our beloved Murtagh Fitzgibbons. But whilst watching it, I did think, oh, we're going to have a little, moment of Murtagh here. But then I thought, well, we don't know what time frame it was that Murtagh joined in there in the TV landscape of timelines. We know in the books that Murtagh was just simply not there. He had already been killed at Culloden. So for book readers, it was a little bit of okay, we're back to traditional sort of book setting. But for the TV viewers, I know they were a little bit shocked that he wasn't even at least portrayed in the background, maybe. But for me, I'm personally glad he wasn't there. It would have just made my heart melt, and to know that he was only going to be there in a remembering sort of moment, I was okay with him not being there, even though I love the character Murtagh. But I know that has definitely been largely discussed on the internet about how the fact that he just wasn't there. But again, as I say, we don't know the timeline of events for the TV sort of land version of Outlander. We don't know if he arrived just, you know, a couple of years in or month. Like, we just don't know because it's not in there. Like, it's not in book form. It's just not there. So it was totally fine for me, but I know it has been discussed. So I wanted to put that in today's video as a little bit of an honourable mention for our beloved Murtagh. Then, of course, we have the new opening credits along with the new opening song. Now, I have already done a video on this specifically, and I'll link it here above because we knew that was coming out. We knew it was a brand new intro with a new song. It's been wildly discussed across the globe. So I will just put that up there, but an honourable mention to that also because it was fantastic. Having it come in straight after the Ardsmuir prison sort of scene and everything that was happening there and the timeline of events for there. And then we go into the current timeline, or well, the current timeline for the Frasers and where they are in time and the world and the planet and the mystic time travelness. We know that it was sort of the nice intro into how our new season is going to start. Throughout this episode, we also have a very subtle but not subtle mention of the Bug family. Now, if you are not a book reader, you may not have picked up on the fact that Mrs. Bug was mentioned not once but twice, and we have a vision or a sort of entrance of what I believe is going to be Archbug. So we have Bree and Roger in their house, or in a house, and they're talking about packages, and Bree makes a very, very open and clear point, Mrs. Bug and the packages. This, instantly I thought, oh, okay, they're going to be into, yep, okay, we have them mentioned, but then there's no real imagery of them. Until later on when the gathering at the big house is happening and Mrs. Bug comes in with food and she's discussed again and you see her. And then who I believe is Archibald Bug comes in with the tart or the cake or whatever it was and puts it on the table. I think that they are going to be definitely... I don't know if their book storyline is going to be fulfilled in this in such a capacity of what it is in the books. But I'm very much looking forward to their character developments in the TV version, and I'm very interested to see if they do become who they're meant to become, or if they stay sort of on the nicer side of things. And I don't want to give too much away for future, but yeah, we'll just see how they play out. But I loved that they were mentioned in the very first episode.
I swear, Mrs. Bug has a knack for hiding parcels.
Bread you're after, Miss Christie. I have some right here, freshly baked.
Thank you, Mrs. Bug.
Thank you.
Our leading lady, Claire, of course, has much happening in this episode. We know that she is physically recovered from her horrific ordeal from the end of season 5, but you can definitely tell that she's more hesitant and... well, it's said openly, you know, she says to Jamie, you're following me around like my shadow. Everybody is sort of on edge in regards to Claire. Well, not on edge, but they're very much making sure that she is okay. Jamie, of course, in particular. And of course, Bree also has a conversation with Claire in regards to the fact that, you know, I know you may not want to talk about it, but I am here if you wish to speak about it. You know, there were times when I said I was fine and I know that I wasn't after she had been attacked. You know, you have the option to talk about it. And it was very, very, and you could tell it was an awkward situation for Claire. She clearly does not want to talk about it, but her family are obviously caring for her and making sure she's okay. She was very much just sort of like, let's sweep this away. Let's talk about something else. And we moved on to Bree and what she could be inventing, or, you know, that she should invent something, or not that she should invent something, but she should portray whatever she wants. If she thinks that she can invent something, she should do it, because there's no point her not living her life in fear of what other people on the ridge are going to think of her inventions. This is another subject that I really want to talk about, and that is the fact that we know that there are things coming in this season that Brie invents that are not from this timeline, they're from her real timeline, and it's like, I love that the women in this series are so powerful and so they are tough. They are very, very tough. And the fact that Claire, even after all of her horrific ordeals, after everything that Brie has gone through, yeah, Brie is a little bit hesitant on making things in case it sort of freaks out everybody in regards to what she's making. But the fact that they are like, no, we are going to do this. This is what's happening. Like, history be damned. And I absolutely love it. It's just, the women on this show are truly, truly people and characters that I hope young women aspire to be like.
You've been like my shadow ever since.
The Christies, now, we know they're a big, big talking point for this episode. They have so many different layers and there's so many different aspects that were played out through this episode. This episode crammed a lot of storyline in regards to the Christies in, and I appreciated that so much. As someone that has read the books and watched the TV series, I sort of know what's happening and what's sort of to come, well, to a point, because we know that the TV show likes to throw us in a couple of curveballs, which I'm totally fine with. But I loved that we're pretty deep into their character development already. In regards to Malva, she's already sort of shown that she's a bit of a creep. And she sort of like, when she appears at Claire's surgery, and Claire is already sort of like, well, is there something I can help you with? Because you're sort of just standing here staring at me. Like, you know, she has this real creepy vibe. And it was really, I mean, okay, Malva was probably the least sort of dived into for this episode, but it definitely set the tone that she has a bit of a creepy stand around stare sort of vibe going on, which is going to be very interesting in future episodes.
But I shouldn't keep you. Do you need something?
Yes. Do you have a loaf of bread? My father wants it. For the congregation.
Allan Christie is one of those characters that I think a lot of people are going to love him for a while. He definitely has some moments in this episode where you feel sorry for him. He comes along and he has those like interactions with the Browns, which we all know they're horrible scum. But the whole storyline with Allan, I think they've covered really well the introductions for him into this episode. So Allan, as he comes in, you see he's very obliging to Tom Christie. He, you know, whatever he says, of course, goes. We see that he's not the biggest fan on everything that Tom does in regards to like God is doing every aspect of life. You know, he does say he would rather have done other things, sort of, not so much that he would have done other things, but he would have handled certain things in a different way had his father not been in the position that he was in and was the way he was. Look, Allan, in this episode, it's really hard to dislike him if you are a TV only fan. Except for the fact, well, he does get caught stealing, but because it's from the Browns, I mean, who wouldn't steal from them? Nobody likes the Browns. So, Allan's a bit of a hard egg to talk about in regards to storylines that are coming, because I don't want to spoil it for the TV only people, but he's just an egg. He's an odd egg. That's how we're going to call him for this one. But yeah, as I said, so he is at one point hunting with Ian, and obviously throughout that point he makes it clear, like, oh no, I think he's sort of, the vibes you get from him at that point is he thinks he's a little bit better than everybody else. But then, yeah, he got caught stealing. And then of course we have a pretty moment, not a pretty moment, but we have a pretty sort of awkward moment when he gets whipped by Jamie, which Jamie didn't want to do either, mind you. So, I mean, I would love to know. As a TV-only viewer, not someone that has read the books, because we know, but what are your thoughts on Allan at this point in time? Are you a fan of his, or are you sort of like, oh yeah, he's an odd one? Or You don't like him? Is he setting off bad vibes? What are your thoughts on Allan Christie?
He stole a powder horn. Cheeky bastards.
Apologise to Mr. Brown at once.
Tom Christie obviously is one of the big people in this episode. He has a lot to say. There's a lot of storyline, a lot of backstoryline, a lot of goings on in regards to Tom Christie. So a couple of things that I loved seeing in this episode was the fact that, you know, the whole interaction when he had cut his hand with Claire in the surgery, that was one of my favorite scenes with him, because you do see he does have some vulnerability in regards to passing out at the sight of blood, and he's not comfortable in that aspect. We also then of course see that really stubborn side come out though, when, you know, he will not flinch, he will not make a move, he will not say he's sick or ill in front of Jamie, which of course Jamie knew, and was one of the reasons why he stayed around, to make him that little bit more on edge.
Jamie.
There are also lots of moments throughout this entire episode where Tom Christie's religious beliefs come very much to the forefront, and it's very much pointed out, and it's like everyone needs to understand this, and it's repeated time and time again of how much his beliefs are his beliefs, and there is nothing going to waver him from them. There were multiple occasions where he would sort of bring up God, and that was in the past scenes at Ardsmuir, when it was also when he met Roger and he asked, well, of course you would build a church before a home. You know, there were so many little moments that was just, oh yeah, he is definitely making sure everybody knows his stance and where everything should be in his sort of food chain of events, if that makes sense. It was very much pointed out that he's a very loyal man to his version of God and his beliefs.
As long as there's a church, a man must surely build a house for God before building a home for himself.
Now, I'm not sure if you noticed or if you picked up on the fact that Tom also tells Allan about, you know, if you're going to be on the same path as your mother. Now, this was right before he was about to get whipped. And he does make it very clear, because that, you know, she is in the fiery pits of hell. So, I mean, it's not something that's majorly going to happen or coming up, but I thought that was the fact that they kept that in from the book, and they sort of, I really appreciated that they threw that little bit in, that you know the sort of the stance on what's happening, like why there isn't a current Mrs. Christie.
You want to end up like your mother?
No.
Good. Because she's burning in the fires of hell.
Fergus and Marsali in this episode. Now, obviously we can see that there is some tension/drama brewing for this lovable family. Fergus really, he has some issues this season, and I think it's very clear already that they're going to be playing that out. He clearly at this point in time is drinking a lot. There's not much help going on with Marsali and the kids, and he's, you know, there's a lot to come in regards to this storyline. I absolutely love Marsali and I love her character. So for me to be now seeing this section of the books playing out, it's going to break everybody's hearts. So that is a little bit of a pre-warning for TV only viewers. Get the tissues ready for what is coming up in regards to that little family.
Your husband not sitting here in front of you at this very moment.
Is he?
I'm sorry, I'm such a disappointment.
Another big talking point throughout most Outlander forums after watching this episode has been the Claire and Ether moments. Now we know towards the start of the episode, Claire has finally been able to recreate Ether and use it as an anesthetic. She timed herself being passed out for a good 3 or 4 minutes. Now that's all well and good. Like, hooray, everything is, you know, she's moving the timeline of events for medical science further and for their community anyway. But then we see at the end of the episode, she's having a horrific dream about everything that has happened. There was Dougal's voice, there was Blackjack's voice. You know, it's not just her trauma that she's suffered recently. It is a good 20-something years of trauma that this woman has had sort of built up and is playing through her dreams. And I mean, if she was able to knock herself out to get some sleep, I kind of don't blame her. You got to think about the trauma that this woman has suffered and her family have suffered. Not that I'm saying that's an excuse to, you know, go off and pass yourself out, but you can definitely see why. But for the traditionalists, the book traditionalists, we know that that doesn't really happen. She doesn't sort of go down this path of needing to knock herself out to sleep to this extreme. It's definitely going to be an interesting storyline because it's not something that's just going to drop out. That's certainly not going to be something that's just going to end in that episode, I don't believe. It's going to, like I said, it's going to definitely be interesting to see if this is the change of events that's going to happen throughout this season. As we do know, Diana has said that this season is one of the ones that is very much, it changes, and we need to be open and accept that because it is a different medium. TV and books are just not the same, and I know that people love to have, you know, the books in the TV series and it should be black and white, you know, jump from book to screen, but that is just not physically possible. And I'm very much personally looking forward to a couple of changes, and I'm excited to try and figure those changes out and to sort of go, oh, I wonder if it's this, or I wonder if it's that, and then get that surprise when it does actually happen. Like the bugs, I'm very excited to see how that scenario plays out and if it will be books or if it will be new. Like, it's definitely going to be a whirlwind of a season. Even though it's going to be very, very short, it's definitely going to be a whirlwind.
Clea, wake up.
Aren't you the clever one, Dr. Wrong?
Bring him out now, Claire. Wait, you say I'm away.
I will slit her throat.
Wait.
Pleasure to see you.
I suspect you may be an English spy.
I would absolutely love to know what your thoughts on this episode were. Did you have a watch party? I did plan to have a small watch party and then work just ruined it. So that didn't happen, but I most certainly have a video coming up on a, let's say, attempted cooking session from the amazing Outlander cookbook, which if you don't have, I highly recommend jumping over onto, I think Amazon definitely have it, or if you're here in Australia, book something. I will link it down below anyway. The Outlander cookbook has some amazing recipes in it. So if you're looking for something to fill in your week from Mondays, well, for me it's Mondays, I know America Sundays, Australia Mondays, to Mondays, Sunday, cook yourself some Outlander dishes, make some cookies and decorate them Outlander style, because we are going to have the most amazing, just 8 weeks. 8 weeks of amazing Outlander everything. I hope my excitement about this episode hasn't thrown anybody off. Again, please hit that subscribe button if you are new here and you haven't already, because it really does help the channel grow. If you could share this video to one of your Outlander friends, I would very much appreciate it. Like I said, I'm very much trying to grow this channel, and my love for Outlander needs to spread across the globe. The more people we have on this crazy Outlander journey, the better. So I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week for the next episode review. Have a great day. Bye.
And by choice, we make our ghosts. We haunt ourselves.
All that was me is gone.